All right, hello and welcome to the Stampscapes Lab Live. We're going to be trying some different compositions using the new nature sets here. I'm going to use both nature set number 32 and 31 here and use them in combination with one another. Some of them I might be isolating certain imagery out of there, depending on the I don't know, whatever the location that I'm depicting, but let's try that on some different surfaces here. Now, I'm not going to get around to all of these, but I just pulled out some different ones here. Here's a photo print of some clouds for some what we call photo stamping. We have a couple pieces of the holographic printable vinyl sticker paper, a couple pieces of the vintage pre-printed paper, just standard semi-gloss white cardstock here. Here's a piece of some of that craft paper. And let's start with those. Now, I did some elongated pieces. I don't know, I tend to think that all nature would look pretty good in a panoramic shot, but I don't know, for some reason I associate these panoramic shots of, I don't know, desert scenery, good vistas and everything like that. I don't know. Seems conducive for that. Okay. Oh, and we also have some of the pre-printed wood grain paper here. So let's take a look and see what we can do with some of these images and how it'll look. I've done some preliminary stamping with them. Okay, so depending on what type of surface I'm using, we have a variety of different inks here. We have the Brilliance, water-based, fast-drying pigment ink, standard black dye-based ink. We have the Moonlight Night, which is a hybrid ink, which is a combination of oil-based pigment ink and water-based dye ink. I guess I don't know what really goes into the hybrid inks. I even asked the seller, and they weren't even quite sure because the manufacturer of the pad one doesn't say. I think it'd be a good idea to know though, because we could know what that ink would be good for. I tend to like it on the pre-printed papers. Hello, Linda. Stays on the black permanent ink. I'm going to use this one if I try stamping, I don't know, just doing some, fooling around on some holographic or foil cardstock, okay? Which is different from the holographic printable vinyl sticker paper, okay? So if I do something like that, I'll use the stays on. I don't know, we have some interesting choices for some of that type of paper. I don't know if I want to just use it with a stamp sketch or something like that, but I don't know, something like that might be pretty cool if I can get around to it. And then we have the Brilliance White pigment ink. So if I use something like the printable vinyl holographic sticker paper, I'd probably use these two in conjunction with one another to block out some area. Okay, so I don't have any plans here. I just my only plan was just to test things out in a variety of different surfaces. I call this stamp sketching because you kind of go into it just, seeing, whenever you get some new stamps and you just feel like kind of playing around with it and testing out some different compositions. You want to get the feel of how, the stamps look in scale with, stamps that you already have. If it's in a set like this, how they look in conjunction with themselves. In this case, there's a couple different sets here, new ones with that desert imagery. You just want to get a feel for it and just, some of the very basics on things like impression pressure, where to put the pressure on the stamp, how much pressure to use, with a large stamp, in comparison to contrast with, a small stamp of the same type. So it's just stuff like that, and, just basically getting familiar with your new stamps. I think it's a good idea to just kind of play around with it. I don't have to do that. I have a pretty good idea sometimes on how things can be used, but it's not firmly set. I see people using, stamps that I've been using for, whatever, 25, 30 years. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, I never thought about doing it that way or using it that way or using that part of the stamp that way. So I'm always surprised. And sometimes when you're just kind of playing around with compositions and not really thinking about doing like a finished scene or card, you come out with different combinations than, you wouldn't think about when you're kind of, doing a little bit more forethought into, what potentially could be the final piece. Now, I've always said that I don't go into things, usually with, a really firm idea of the end result. I'll just kind of know I'm using some general stamps, but I'll know the basics of it, in terms of what my main imagery is going to be, time of day, and something like that. And things change from there, oftentimes. But with stamp sketching, you kind of want to, throw a lot of, I don't know, whatever preconceived notions out the door and just kind of have an open mind and just kind of play around. Okay, so that being said, hello, Bonnie, Debbie, and Patty. Good to see you. Happy Friday to you. Hope you had a nice week. Okay, so one of the things I was thinking about was when I was using these Saguaro stamps, you wouldn't normally think of an ocean or something like that or a big body of water with, certain types of cacti. I do because, there's Lake Powell and things like that. And, the Baja Peninsula and the Sea of Cortez down there, it's desert basically, and you have the ocean right next to it. So I thought I would try something with this right here, the just a pre-printed photo of clouds here, and it is printed on photo paper. I got it at Costco, I'm sure. And on photo paper, I like to use dye-based ink with that. Okay, I'm thinking about my composition a little bit right here. I'm going to use the Seaside Cove small on this. I'm not going to have these waves down here. I'm just using this for the top portion of it. And I really need to do something in this composition, but do it on maybe a glossy cardstock at some point in time, because one of the things that I really loved looking at photos of over the years that really kind of stood out to me was have been photos of that Baja Peninsula and just that super aqua, warm green, super clear water in certain areas. And there's always like a kayaker in there, the photographer usually sets something like that up in there, so a kayaker has always been the thing that I've seen in there. So let's try a composition like that a little bit. All right, so let's see. I'm going to use my rock cluster right here, which is the boulders with lichen. Now I'm going with a cloud image that I've adjusted on the original before I uploaded it. And by the way, these are on my Flickr account. Good thing, I don't know, Flickr didn't take down my all of my posts, existing posts, when I discontinued my pro account. So you can get these and just download them free. There's a little icon in the lower left-hand corner. I think it's an arrow pointing down, which means download, and you decide what resolution you want to print them in or download them in. And you would just choose original, and then you'll have the file for them. But I've decreased the saturation and contrast on a lot of these photos so that I could stamp these rocks down here, and you don't have this big, huge, super blue, cloud running through it where it's obvious that I stamped this over something. You stamp these rocks right over the top, and it looks like, you can't tell that the clouds are showing through it. So I did that for that reason. There are some photos on there that have a higher contrast that I uploaded because I started using vellum with the cloud stamps, and I thought, oh, okay, I need more contrast on those ones because you got to be able to see the clouds through the vellum and have a little bit more contrast. Okay, so that ink really dries on there pretty fast, but not this time because yesterday when I was doing or I don't know, a couple days ago I was doing some stamping, get some test impressions for the stamps, but I kind of over inked my dye-based pad a little bit. So this is drying still. It would normally be dry if, you had normal kind of dampness on your pad. I keep my pads kind of medium. Um, I wouldn't even say medium wet. It may be, if I'm need like if I'm stamping some like real solid black imagery and it's like a huge stamp or something like that. Spruce tree large comes to mind. So normally I'm keeping this about medium, okay, because I don't want ink to puddle up really at all in my scenes, but especially in the imagery that has a lot of tight detail in it. Okay, so Seaside Cove. Maybe the bigger one would be better, but this is the one that I had out, so I'm just going to use this. Okay, and let's see, I'm going to undermask slightly. You can see this paper towel kind of with about, I don't know, it's like a 1/4 inch of imagery on the top there. And I'll just try to get this as straight as I can. I'm putting more pressure around that paper towel area. Okay, and we have that. I guess I did get some of those rocks in there. I was just going to use this top portion, but I probably used about more like, I don't know, 80% of it. So we have more shore here. Okay, let's see. Let's go for some of these saguaros in here. And then I want some islands in the background. But I'm going to, since this is, about testing these new images, I'm going to have my background imagery. I'll work my background imagery around, whatever the test subjects are. In this case, the saguaros. Otherwise, I might do the islands first in a future one, and then kind of put my cacti, around that. But this one, let's really emphasize the new images. Okay. And all right. So we're just using dye-based inks, for this entire process. Now the Seaside Cove, you can see the the clouds showing right in there, but we end up coloring these photo cards anyway, or I do at least. I do it with alcohol inks after the dye-based ink dries, which is pretty fast because the emulsion on your photo papers, it's just designed to dry pretty quickly. I'm going to mop off a little bit of that ink off the bottom right there. Which I probably didn't even need to do because I have that bottom going off the page. Okay, I hope I just didn't double stamp that there. I have a gigantic stamp of ink down here, paper down here. All right, so let's go for that. I didn't hold that down long enough to get an even darker impression, but it's okay. I was just worried that I kind of double stamped that, so I lifted it a little bit soon, but it transferred over pretty well. It would have just transferred over a little bit better. Okay, so I've always had this super long acrylic block that I've never applied tack and peel to because I haven't had an image that's this long. So some of this new kind of saguaro, cacti here, or maybe it's just this one here. It's perfect for this really skinny block right here. Oh, the advertising director over at Rubber Stamp Madness is going to Cabo San Lucas, which is at the southernmost tip of you know, the Baja Peninsula. I don't know, she might already be there right now. And I've been there once before. Way back when. Okay, so kind of flanking this off like this. It's taking me back to Cabo, seeing that. Okay, let's see. I don't see this as being like super distant right here, so I don't want to go for. I don't think I want to go for this cacti. You know, the distance between right here and right here isn't supposed to be, you know, whatever. You know, with 30 feet or something like that. So let's go for. Let me go for another. Or do I want to use a different thing in here? We can go for. I don't want to use the Joshua tree. Or do I? There's the organ pipe cactus. Maybe that one. I'll go for it. Yeah, we'll go for this one right here. It's nice having different sizes to choose from. So this isn't, you know, because these are different types of cacti, you know, we can, if I use this in conjunction with the larger one, it would kind of represent a distance, you know, maybe one of the same size, but I can just use this in here and this could just represent, you know, a younger version of that, you know, and closer up, right? Okay. If anyone's into botanicals and you have a chance to travel a little bit, I have a feeling that the deserts are going to have a really great wildflower season this year. There's been a few, numerous good wildflower seasons. They call it super blooms a lot of times. It's not always just, they're not always just referring to cactus, but, there's been like poppy bloom, explosions. There was one last year. In fact, they had to close down an area because there was just way too many people going out there. Yeah, I think this one's going to be a big one, and it's usually at the end of, kind of starting at the end of February. With the peak month being March. But it's kind of interesting because some of the desert flora, the annuals, not the cactus blooms, but the annuals. Sometimes they don't. You have to wait for ideal conditions and enough rain. So sometimes you don't get certain types of flowers out there. But there's some flowers that when there's a decent enough rainfall, steady rainfall through, I don't know, whatever winter, and I think it has to start in fall and winter. Someone explained to me it's not just the total rainfall, but just a consistent amount of rainfall over the course of a couple months. That's when there's like a super bloom. But some of those, I don't know, those flowers, what I was getting at, some of those flowers they're like here, like for like a week and a half or something like that, or 2 weeks or something, from the time of the bloom to when they seed. It's just so fast because they get eaten up by caterpillars. Okay, so we have that going on right there. I'm going to put a couple little islands in the background. I don't want to interfere with the silhouette of these saguaros though in the foreground. So I don't know. Let me see. I'm looking for my aisles set. Okay, I couldn't remember if I had it in cling foam or if I just had the individual unmounted versions of those. Okay, looks like I don't know. I'm started using this, I used the unmounted versions, just the rubber. This might be my favorite place to use these in with the desert imagery. Okay, so I think I'm gonna use the smaller ones here. And we'll see here. Okay. All right, now I wish I had a piece of cling on this one right here, but let's see. Is this one? It's not quite long enough here. But anyways, come on out and see the wildflowers. Okay, is that going to be? Let me see right here. Maybe that's too big here. We have this little, like, small area in here. Let's go real small. This is composition on the fly, folks. I don't have I prearrange in some videos, but not in most. And especially in a stamps, sketching video. My problem here is there were too many ideas when I started getting some papers ready. It's like, oh, I need to try out this. Then that opens it. Oh, if I do that, then I need to do this, and or if I'm doing this Baja Peninsula, one, then I want to do it in color. I want to do that, super aqua green, clear, super high visibility water, with a kayaker in it, sea kayaking. Okay, so there's that one, and then let's go, I'll go for another one. I think. Okay, let's go for a real distant one here. I need something out here, but I don't want to put it, I do want to go a little bit lower, but I'm going to have that kayaker down here, so, if I had the kayaker real close to this one, I'd be saying there's a rock, like 20 feet out, into the water or something like that. But I want this much more distant. So I'm just going to use probably the top of it. So I'll go way up here like that. And then this is a really thin stamp, so it's just going to be a little bit of a nub, if anything, up there, I think. Yeah, just like that. So, of a very small stamp, I just used about like 40% of it or something like that. Okay. And let's see, let's take this kayaker. Okay, I can't color anything right now on this. I said it normally dries really fast on that emulsion coating on the photo paper, but my pad is just so juicy right now. I mean, I could wipe some of that ink off, but I'm not going to here. Marvy black ink these days is it's scarce. unless people own it, because I think it's sold out everywhere. All right, so there we have it. Saguaros next to the sea, like that. I get that cloud works really well in there, actually, now that I think about it. It doesn't look like, I don't think I mean, I could definitely follow the line of the cloud or something like this, but this area right in here, it just looks like clouds are reflecting off of the water's surface. Okay, now how I would finish this off is down here in the waves like that. I would just, there's not much I would have to do to this. I would give it a little bit of shadow work underneath the crest of the wave, and just with a little bit of color, not super dark or anything like that, but you just want to go a little bit darker than the color that's already down there. So if you have some um, alcohol inks are the perfect thing for that. And just go kind of in the theme of the color. So on something like that, that bluish, it's got a little bit of a violet tinge to that color up there. So something like this, right here, I might be able to do that right here. The Seaside Cove's probably dry here, but the cacti right here, which are more solid black, there's a lot more ink in that impression. So with something like this, I don't know if you can even see here, but I'm just kind of putting a little bit more shadow underneath these waves to define them a little bit more. And again, alcohol inks are perfect for this because you've printed the impressions in a water-based ink that would normally dry fast if you didn't like super saturate your pad. Okay. So it won't smear any of the imagery down there. And then, a lot of you have kind of a few different alcohol inks, and a lot of you have like variations of gray or something like that. Even if you have like one or two, like a kind of a light tone. You don't need too many pens to do this type of thing like this, So it's just kind of adding in that extra little shading and definition. I put a little shadow at the base of that. I mean, I could put, some of the base of this island up there. They're really super distant, so they wouldn't be casting a shadow really, far that we can see. This rock right here is a little bit wet. I'll try to stay off of that, but here, let me hit it with a little bit of a brownish gray tinge like this. I mean, you can do it with the same blue in there if you want to, that I just used. But see this right here? It's just kind of modeling the rock a little bit. So on the top of the rock, it's a little bit lighter, but down here, and you can see, I'm just using a really light pen, so it just blends in. So even if you did something, a horrific kind of application of it on accident, of course, it doesn't show up so extreme. So you can see this rock now. See these rocks right in here? They're a little bit toplit because I've just kind of added a little bit of tone, like right at the base of it. So I've kind of colored in the darker areas like that a little bit more, and that models your rock a little bit more. You can add, you can get a little bit more adventurous with some additional colors on something like this. It depends what your background photograph is. Maybe you have a background photograph that's more dominant. There's more hard contrasts in there with blues and whites or something like that. So, you might shade into your forms a little bit more to bring them out of the scene a little bit more. You can use some highlighting on them if you want to. Whatever you want to do. But with these photographs, it's pretty fun because you don't have to do very much to it. I think that looks pretty cool. Now, when this cacti dries, maybe I'll come in here with a little bit of like a tinge of green. I wouldn't want like a lime green or something like that. But there are the what do you call them? The ribs, and there's highlighting within those cacti. So if you just add a little bit of color to it, it would be a little hint of, some tone in that imagery, which would be pretty cool to do. Just as a real subtle type of thing. You can add some highlights in here too, if you want, but like I said in the description, I'm getting a little carried away with this one right here, but I'll finish this off a little bit more with some highlights and little splashing in the waves or something like that. Some highlights on my rocks like that, just to add in those little extra kind of finishing touches in terms of lighting or something like that. We're playing around with glitter these days. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a subtlety on this one, but even if you put like a little wink of Stella on some of these breaking waves right here in the foreground like that, so that when you catch the light, it would kind of, you'd have a little bit of shimmer on those waves. I think something like that would be really cool. All right, so first, semi-developed stamp sketch there, but it took like, I don't know what, like 30 seconds of coloring or something like that on that. All right, I think I'm done with the Sea of Cortez. I wanted to see that that cacti imagery with an ocean behind it. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Debbie, for the thumbs up. Let's see. Hello, Cynthia. That's CM right there. You like that on the photo class? Super fast, huh, Linda? So, you know what? I need to, one of the things I really need to do, I've mentioned this before, I just haven't gotten around to it, is like, with this desert imagery, I really need to be printing out sunsets and things like that. Oh, that was another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do that on a different day here, but I want to do a brayered, well, we used to call in graphic arts a split fountain, where you transition those tones down. I want to get like a brayered, like a sunsetty looking background, and then stamp over it. But you can also do that in photo stamping really easy. You can have like a full cloudy background, already established. And, I mean, that would be, super dynamic. That's, a lot of people talk about that live in the deserts. Like, hey, we got, really incredible sunsets and twilights and things like that. So, it'd be good to take advantage of that type of, whatever, visual narrative. It'd be fun. One of the things that we're usually doing too in photo prints is we're printing them out, 3.5 by 5, 4 by 6, 5 by 7, that type of thing. But it'd be cool to print, a full page type of thing out and just to, cut it down and make it more like a slimline type of thing, so you can go with a photo print. That's one of the things I haven't really done too much of. I've stuck with the photographic ratio, okay, and I haven't done like a slimline version or something like that. So you have clouds or something like that, and you're printing it out in a 8.5 by 11 or something like that, 8 by 10, whatever size your paper is. If it's only clouds like that, you can cut it in half, and you'd have two slimline cards, and because it's clouds or just generic background colors, you can use both portions of it, so it's not like you're wasting one of them, or whatever the other top half, or something like that. Okay, so this is I don't know what size this is right here. Yeah, here actually. One of the things I try not to do these days is go with the full, if this is 11 inches right here, because I find that when I do a finished scene on this, if it's 11 inches, I can't mat it on anything because I don't have like a bunch of 12 by 12s or different colored, 11 by 17 or legal sized 8.5 by 14 cardstock. So I think this looks 11 inches right here, and it is. Okay, so I need to cut that one down. So I cut down some other ones here. So instead of going 8.5, I think this is 7.5 right here, but a little bit elongated right there for some stamp sketching. Okay, so let's see. Let's play around with some I don't know, like an Ocotillo forest or something like that. Let's use. I can just stamp them out now. Here, let me just do that. I'll start off with, just nothing in the background, and I'll just fill in with some textures or something like that. My sand, my snow pattern, I'll use it for sand pattern. But I really like this, the use of the cacti with some of the winter imagery. You know, I just don't make it snow. I make it something else, sand or whatever, dirt. Okay, so where do you start with imagery? Normally, this is going to be predominantly like a botanical type of thing. I'm not working the imagery around some sort of desert shack or something, cabin in the background. So if it's just some kind of botanical type of thing, I'm just usually starting with the largest imagery and working smaller. You know what I mean? It's just like trying to fit something into some space, and you want to maximize the space, which isn't the case with stamping. It's not about trying to pack in as much info as we can, but still, though, I my dominant imagery is typically going to be the largest ones. So maybe not in terms of attention or something like that. I could stamp all this imagery in here, and then I stamp a little rabbit in here, and if it's the only living creature in there, that's the thing that everyone's eye is going to go straight to. But in terms of the structuring of the imagery, let me try this right here too. These ocotillos, I drew them with that little red bloom on the top here, and I thought I would use some I'll try some the green little sprouts, leaves that come out on the side of all these stalks like this. It looks real craggy, and that's what it looks like for most of the year. I don't know what color it is, brownish, dark brown, gray, I don't know. But when they bloom, they're all covered in these green leaves, and they have this kind of like dragon serpent like flower coming out of it like that. They're really cool that way. But I'll add on those little green blooms, I think, with a acrylic paint pen instead. So just colored it all with black, and then I just went on the tips like that, and I just hit it with my red pen. So you can see where the pen gets black on it, but I just kind of wipe it off like this. Okay, so let's see. So this is going to obviously, it'll be a spring type of scenario here. And this is a semi-gloss white cardstock. This with something like this, with what I'm doing here, you can do it in whatever color you want. I mean, whatever paper you want. Okay, I'm thinking this one is probably going to be more of like a colored pencil finished piece. When I was thinking about doing some of that in green, I don't know, it's like my mind's tricking me. I almost see some green in there. I thought, wait a minute, I didn't just stamp that out in the bottle green, did I? Okay, now I do this. I don't bother working around these little blooms like this. Okay, we never used to do that in this type of coloring right here. We did this watercoloring type of technique where you just kind of blend in your tones like that. It would be now, if I had a black pen and I was coloring this, stamp, I didn't have a pad to use, then I might not color in those red little tips like that, those blooms. But I don't bother doing that. That would just take way too much time to do and be like a hassle. So that's what I would suggest. You have like a good juicy marker like that. I wouldn't do it with like a real fine tip pen, maybe. Where it's easy just to scribble that ink off of there, or just, I don't know. These days they have a lot of like really inexpensive sets out there too. So set of whatever 32 for, I don't know, $15 or something like that. If you want to do this type of blending, but it's like, hey, I don't want to mess up my La Plumes or Tombos or something like that. I'm talking about watercolor pens. Just get one of those real cheap ones to do all that, do all that dirty work. Where you're not going to care about, getting, a little bit of a cross, I don't know, whatever pollution in there. That black ink on there is still a little bit wet. I've got glitter everywhere on this thing. Linda was joking about that, you know. It's like, oh my God, are we going to glitter? Because that's going to be like everywhere. I got glitter, little sparkly things everywhere here. Now, okay, let's see. Let's go with some rocks in here. Okay, so I have my, you know, my large imagery like that. It'll be like a little ocotillo kind of garden in here. Let's fill in a little bit here. So in this case, kind of the ocotillos are your kind of foundation imagery. And then what I'm doing here is filler. I know it's also foreground in there too. Okay, like that. This imagery is so easy to use. I don't know, there's something different about using this cacti imagery. I haven't really thought about it, but I mean, on something like an ash tree or something like that, we have that small trunk going into the ground. But pine trees too, they're this way, and they're really solid on the base like that. Maybe everything blends down this way because it's a lot of cacti. It's going from something kind of wider to narrower on the bottom part, maybe, you know. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I'm kind of noticing it a little bit here. Okay, here's a Joshua tree. Did you get flooding close? I didn't. Thanks for asking. I didn't get it close to me, Bonnie. My sister texted me. She said, "Hey, you know." That was like, I think all of that flooding was like in one kind of area or one like neighborhood. And it's where this channel overflowed a lot. So it was like a really specific area, and it was probably one of the, I don't know, one of the lower kind of depressed areas, you know, going through this valley area, I'm guessing. I'm not really familiar with that area in San Diego, but yeah, I did see the footage of it, or the aftermath, you know, where you can see that water, you know, got up about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet up, you know, all those walls and things like that, and people's houses, you know, couple cars, you know, or maybe a lot of them, you know, like submerged, or there's one floating down the drainage channel. Really terrible stuff. But I don't think anyone would, you know, died in that, which is good, of course. You know, one of the main things. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. We're expecting a lot more rain coming up at the end of this next week. So it's one of those things. That's, you know, when we get flooding like that, it's all, you know, it's never good like that. But out here in California, we're so used to being in drought situations, drought conditions, and being, you know, below average for so many years. You know, kind of in the big picture, as far as like statewide goes, it's like, you know, hopefully we get as much rain as we possibly can, because I was telling my son, you know, you never know. You never know when we're going to be hit with, you know, another, you know, whatever period of time, 7 years or something like that, you know, under average. Okay, so going for a little bit more rocks in the background like that. I mean, I was going to fill in like that, but that tree just kind of sitting there like that, not planted into anything like that, was kind of bugging me. I wanted to get a better feel of how that was going to look. You know, sitting into the scene. Okay, here's another Joshua tree right here. When you stamp objects up higher, it usually represents, in Western perspective, you know, something more distant. Okay, let's see here. Let's come over this way. I just need to cover a little bit of that open rock right here. The rock right next to it is more silhouette. You know, always talking about, if you've watched these videos a lot, you always hear me talking about checkerboarding, you know, kind of oscillating light and dark across your scene when stamping it. But I also do that with the imagery, so you're oscillating between dark, light, you know, going up and down. It's dark, light, vertically, but also kind of horizontally like that. So you see that rock like that. It just makes it a more kind of visually interesting and rich surface if you, you know, consider those, whatever the, you know, the light, you know, variation of any kind, texture, lighting, whatever, intensity, temperature. All right, so see this right here? Here's another Joshua tree like that. So here's a larger one. And then here's a smaller one like that. And it's a little bit higher up. And then I can put, you know, another one in the background if I want to, like that. Yeah, I mean, it can also be, you can also do it in the foreground like that. And it can just represent, you know, a smaller one, which isn't going to look like a larger one, just, you know, shrunk. But, you know, we don't want to just do like, you know, 20 different versions of, you know, whatever Joshua trees in every kind of state they are. So you can do like just a, you know, one lower and it just, you can say, ah, that's just a young version of it, you know. Okay, so let's go like this over here. Like that. And let's see, let's go for more Ocotillo, like this. I want to do an 11 by 17 desert composition. Maybe where you're kind of, I kind of did it with this Acadia one, where you're kind of looking off this, you know, this ledge, this slope, and looking down into, you know, autumn, you know, an environment, kind of full color, autumn color. But this one, I want to do like this scene where it's looking like down into a valley, you know, and there's like a, you know, desert flora garden on the slope, and then out in the distance, you know, maybe a sunset or something like that. And I thought that would be really cool to do sometime. All right, so let's see. Okay, here's that little desert brush right here. I don't want to make this too cluttered down here, but I also want to see how this imagery works together, so I might sacrifice, you know, some compositional types of things for exploration here. So here's this little bush in here, and we'll utilize that about like that, and that is working out perfectly, just like I had hoped. You can just stamp right over the top. Let me do a little, let me see what this looks like right here. Some people do their stamp sketching on just some plain paper too, you know. I'm looking for blending here, just going from side to side, and I can see that's doing that. So I can blend vertically as well as horizontally, which was the concept in doing this one here. And I've been doing this designing long enough where I can kind of, I can speculate. It's okay, if I make the weight of, this area of the stamp light enough, then it's going to blend in with the opposite side just fine. But you don't know 100% until you, really use something, Okay, so that is that. Now, I mean, if you're going to use some sort of little animal down here, it's a good idea to put that down there right now before you kind of fill it in with extra textures. So let's do a little elusive desert tortoise right here, I think. It's gonna just fit it just great. And those things are kind of coming out, you see them more out in the open during the springtime, of course, when there's a lot of plants and flora. They love flowers, eating flowers. All right, go like that, and we have this really tiny, dinky desert cactus wren, like that. Okay, if you have the unmounted version, especially, be careful with these sets here, or your imagery, especially the small imagery like this. And that if it was, I mean, it's a little bit more whatever visible if it's on a piece of cling, because it doubles the thickness of it. But if you have it unmounted, just make sure you don't toss it out on accident, or I just keep an eye on it. They're easy to misplace. Okay, let's see. And with really tiny imagery, make sure that you don't press too hard on them. Otherwise, you'll kind of smash the impression down too much, and it'll give you more of like a blobby version of it. So, I mean, it's not precarious or anything like that. Just, just don't overdo it. Don't use the same pressure on like a little dinky stamp like that as you did on, a stamp like this big with a lot of more area to it. Okay, so here's my little tiny rocks here, and filling in with a little bit of extra texture. Thanks to anyone that ordered the imagery, as part of the line. Everything's been mailed out, and everything will be mailed out for any future orders. All right, check it out like that. I could put some, foreground in here. It seems I don't feel compelled to use like reeds in here or something like that I normally do. We could do something like this to really push, a little bit of extra depth. I could put, the tops of these ones down here, like it's a closer thing. But I don't know. I with these compositions like this, I don't feel like I need to. I did a little bit down here, with this extra cacti right in here. But it's just because I didn't want it to look so much similar, this area right here from this side over here. So I put in this little, extra little forms down here. But down here, I don't know. I guess it's kind of busy enough in here. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I need to put extra depth in here. Like I said, although you could. So on this one right here, because I've added those little blooms in there, we're saying it's spring, so I'll put in like some of these white blossoms up at the top of the Joshua trees, and I'll I'll probably have like a sandy brown or something like that in here on these plants down here. But on these bushes, this is also why I did that little desert. It's not ground covered, but a little bush like that. It's because these bushes in here in the deserts, they have like the spectacular bloom. Not this one in particular, but this one's just like a generic one. So you can put like different, like it's usually yellow or white, a lot of times that I see on these types of bushes like this. And I'm going to do that on all of these ones in here. I think I need another impression of it out here on the side. If you don't have, something like this, you can use sedge filler in here, something like that. Okay. I wanted some right over here so I can have some of those blooms on there. Like that. See that right there? See, when I did that too, I'm just using the top portion of it like this a little bit. You don't have to go for the full impression of it. If you don't want to. You can just kind of use it at an angle like that, on these kind of more, I don't know, whatever textural forms like that. All right, so there we go with that one. That one's more Ocotillo spring-based. Got a little, that tortoise right there has a piece of glitter on his hand. And I'm not sure what I'll do in the sky. I might just leave it as is, or I might put a little bit of tone up there, a little bit of blue or something like that up there. In dye-based ink. So let's go with that. Everything is just so wet with that. Way over inked my pad. I guess it was it was more juicy than I thought it was going to be. Or maybe I re-inked it more recently than I thought. Okay, so I want to go with these peaks here in the distance. I'm wondering if I want to do that on that one or if I want to do that on one of the more elongated ones. Did I do a real long one of that white paper? I did it of this. Let me see, like this. Okay, now normally I would put this dark area up top here in doing something because it's kind of creating this vignette, but I think if I do this, it'll put these mountain peaks like in the light, because they're higher up. So when you have this sun, the sun setting, in this case, these would be front lit and the sunset would be behind us. You get these peaks up top here that are still in the light because they're higher up. And, as the sun goes down, you get this. So, I don't know, maybe we can kind of create some kind of, whatever, lighting narrative like that. Yeah, Carolyn. Yeah, your set is on the way. Hope you enjoy that. Okay. Carolyn just did. How many of those Aurora, those Northern Lights pieces did you do? Okay, we're switching inks right here. I almost forgot to do that. Okay, so we're going on this pre-printed paper. I would say any one of these inks right here would be a good choice. Stays on Brilliance or the Midnight Night. If you, a VersaFine Clair, I think would be good on this paper. It would just take a little bit longer to dry because it's oil-based, But this paper right here with the dye-based ink tends to resist it a little bit because you have printer ink on here. This isn't some weathered paper. This is all printer inks on here and, run through a 4-color press. Whatever colors would be mixed to form that color. So I find that my dye-based ink, I haven't made a super long impression holding it there forever. But, you want, if you are using a dye-based ink, just, I don't know, press and hold a little bit longer, or just do some test prints. That's what I always mention to people. Anytime you're trying some sort of new surface. And if you don't already have some tips on what inks to use, check it out. Or check out the, Linda, what is that ink compatibility chart on the Facebook group called? I think it's like a downloadable form, right? But they made like an ink chart, okay, in terms of compatibility. So I thought, oh, that is awesome. It's like a perfect use of the the group format too, where you can post files. There's a photo stamping folder up, 2 of them, I think, including my own sky photos up there. But yeah, Facebook. Okay, so let's put these peaks up here. I'm gonna put them, whatever, stage right. It's gonna go into that. Oh, I don't know, semi-rule of thirds type of thing. That's, I don't know. It would be over here a little bit longer, maybe, but I mean, you could center this if you want to. I tend to go for a little bit more of the 2/3, the rule of thirds type of composition most of the time. Okay, now before I stamped this out too, I kind of wiped off the base here because I knew I was going to have all this cacti coming in here. I mean, the bottom of this doesn't have like a real super distinct line or anything like that. I put that into design itself, so I wouldn't have that, but it could potentially have a little bit of that on there. Okay, let's use this again though. Let's do this right here. I just took a look at that again. It's like, okay, I grabbed the right ink, didn't I? But let's do this right here. Let's wipe off the bottom a little bit, but let's also I'm going to go up on this a little bit higher like this. Actually, I'm going to just mop off a little bit of this. Sometimes I have a little bit more control because I can see how much ink is on here visually. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the times when I think I take off a certain amount of ink, I took off a lot less than I thought. And I'm going to put this over here, and hopefully, I'm hoping that it looks like it's a little bit more in the distance because it's lighter, and then it's higher. See, this one came down like right here. This impression is down here, and this one's higher up here. I mean, naturally, I don't want it, to look like redundant. So hopefully the lighter impression of it like that, you know what I mean? I can see that that's clearly that same thing, but it's lighter and it's kind of back in the distance like that. So hopefully, it won't look so, repetitive. Obviously repetitive, we're stampers, so we know that, but, to the, I don't know, whatever, to the, the non-stamper or something like that. Not that they would be looking for that anyway, but you know what I mean. Okay, so hello, Verna. Good to see you. Your stamps are on the way too. Everyone's stamps are on the way. Hello, Christine. Hello, military mom. Carolyn. Let's see. Clear up the confusion. In the files section, okay. I don't know my way around Facebook really well. Okay, so when you go to the group, there's something that says files, right? Okay, let's see here. Which cacti do I want in this environment or this composition? Let's go with the organ pipe and some other ones then. Okay, let's go like this. So I've been in a lot of desert environments, but mostly in California. So I haven't seen organ pipe cacti before, but I sure love the look of them. I think there's an organ pipe, I don't know, a national monument or something. It's not it's not a national park, I don't think. I think it's a national monument. That was interesting to me. There's different types of things. There's national parks, I think, which have the highest amount of things like restrictions and protections and things like that, I think. And it's not due to the size of them either, because like Maine's Acadia National Park is really dinky, and there's some things like national preserves that are huge. But I think I forgot the designation between national monuments and national parks. National preserves, I know you can hunt in them, and I've seen, and there's people living out there too. That I don't know what they do. They either got grandfathered in or they lease the land or something like that. Okay, so let's go with a couple of these. This is a really long piece here, so we'll add on a couple of these largest ones here. On this really big, whatever slimline format right here, I'll need to flank both ends, for a little bit of containment, whatever, compositional containment. Like that, all right. And then again, let's put another one down there. So I don't like to go with just like, if it's like a tree or something like that, one tree like that. It's a little bit too kind of monotonous. That's why I like this one right here. There's like two trees over, two cacti over here and one over here of that dominant, type. Or I'll kind of, group things together a little bit more. I'll put things like closer together. Oops, I almost went with stays on. Let's see. Let's go here. Let's go with the smaller one. I need to test out a lot more imagery here, so let's keep doing that. Let's switch off to the medium organ pipe right here. And I'll go a little bit higher up here like that. And I'll kind of overlap into this one, I think, a little bit. So this hybrid ink it's a little bit thicker, than just a straight dye-based ink, because it is, partial pigment ink in there. And then also having that partial pigment ink tends to be a lot more surface-oriented in terms of the application of it. It doesn't soak into the paper like a dye-based ink is designed to do. It's, dyes work by staining. And the pigments are a lot more, they, again, they stay on the surface for longer. Or, that's their application. They stay on the surface. They might absorb a little bit, maybe, but, for the most part, it's right on the surface like that. Okay, let's add in some rocks. Let's kind of build our distance in here like that. Linda, you love the brayer, huh? I haven't done that enough. That brayering is a really great technique. That was my lesson for a long time on the Stampscapes website in terms of quick scenes. It was using the brayer. So I had a whole, like a section in the lessons section called Quickscapes, I think it was. And for the most part, I was still only using dye-based inks and glossy cardstocks. So that was a really good way to do a glossy, glossy cardstock dye-based ink application, except it's just in a, I'm trying to think of this composition right here. In a quick card, type of format. So that was my answer to that. A lot of people really love that technique right there. because they were spending a lot more time building scenes. So it's like, I have, I got 20 cards to do for Christmas or something like that. I'm not going to do a bunch of scenes like that, but it's like, oh, okay, now I can do a brayer in the background, just stamp right over the top of it in black ink. That's going to be easy for them. So I knew some people that did that back then, especially when they had, multiple, cards to do. Okay, a fingernail brush. A small vacuum will take care of most. Oh, okay, got it. You got to get that. There's also the like the Tim Holtz glitter vacuum, glitter vac, I think it's called, or something like it. Bling vac that you can also get. I'm joking, folks. Okay, here's the small organ pipe. So, okay, kind of building it back like that. They say that things, compositions or whatever, what is it? They're better in like odd numbers or something like that. So maybe I'll go for 5 of the organ pipes like this. Organ pipe clusters or whatever. Since that's probably going to be my dominant form in here. Don't overanalyze it. It's like, when you're stamping your scenes, like, hey, wait a minute, I got to add in one more because I got 4 of these. It's nothing like that. Okay, let's see. I think the ocotillos and the organ pipes here, I mean, I could use them or something like that, but I think the forms kind of they're kind of similar in spirit. You know what I mean? So I think I'm not going to do it in here. And maybe, the saguaro, maybe, like really dinky saguaros in the distance or something like that would be cool. I really tried to fill in these sets with, a lot of filler imagery that could be beneficial, whether we'd use them or not. You know what I mean? It's like, if you have them, it's great, and you can kind of add them in there. But yeah, really tried to jack it up with, these sets with, kind of really tiny imagery like that. Like I could probably even throw one in the middle like that. Do I want to? Let's go ahead and do it. Right here. See, that would normally kind of bother me because I like this negative space in here of this form, but for some reason was I telling you, Linda, that I was saying, I find that we can, maybe I was just saying it in a video, I find that adding kind of more in this desert environment that would normally wouldn't do with other types of terrains and imagery. I don't know. I don't find it to be like, I don't know, kind of visually intrusive or something like that, kind of contributing to clutter. Okay. I don't know. I find that you can keep adding a lot of things in here and it just, I mean, I haven't run into it yet. Maybe, there's kind of some point of, that maybe you should stop. If that's the way to describe it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it all looks just fine so far, at least. Let's do something like here. Let's stamp that off once like that, and let's get some like more distant ones in here like this, maybe. I need to, if I blot it off, I need to do it on a flat piece like that. All right, something like that. Yeah, see all that repetition in there? I don't know. I think it looks fine. Or maybe, better maybe. Okay, let's fill in with some rock here. Filler kind of texture. See how this is darker in here? So you go with the darker impression of this in those darker areas like that. Okay. And then maybe not, it doesn't have to be everywhere, but maybe in some of these lighter areas you go for the lighter, drier impression of it in there to kind of repeat, whatever the lighting, the existing lighting scheme that's on there. In this case, the pre-printed papers like that, but see that like that? So I'm having to stamp a little bit differently these days with this imagery right here, which is kind of, it's kind of cool to I don't know, have something kind of different, here, or having to think differently. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna put these people in here with their dog. I'm using way too big of a block. I just got a bunch of ink right down at the base right there. They need to watch out for that. There's like a rattlesnake right around that corner. I used to hike in the deserts all the time. A lot of times people are kind of like, when you say, oh, I went camping out in the desert, it's like, hey, aren't you worried about snakes or something like that? Or if you go surfing, say, hey, you ever get worried about like sharks? I was out in the deserts a lot, and maybe I just didn't see them or something like that, but I rarely came upon any snakes or specifically rattlesnakes. I've seen them, a number of times, but in comparison with how many times I've been out there, I go hiking off trail all the time and bouldering and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's never anything that you've really had to worry about. And if you do, you see one, they're not like going and hunting you and trying to, strike you, usually desert creatures, they want to stay away from you, as far away from you as possible. I want to see some right here. I'm going to finish these off later, but I just want to see some of this white charcoal pencil. And I found this too. I have a Conte pencil right here. If you ever hear of Conte crayons, they're these little sticks of they're almost more like a colored pencil thing, but I don't know, maybe there's something inconsistency they feel in between like graphite and yeah, like colored pencil or something like that. I don't know what they are made out of, but and I just found that one. I thought that might work pretty well on this type of paper like this, so I test it out. Okay, just underneath the home page is the navigation bar. Okay, yeah, perfect, perfect. Thank you, Linda. Candy's brayered on the gel plate. Oh, yeah. I haven't. Has everyone used gel plates yet? I see such awesome results from gel plates. I haven't done it before, which I should because I really love the whole look of prints and it, that whole print making kind of process. Some of my when I was in art school or school and getting an art degree. My favorite like student works that I'd ever see, pretty consistently, it came out of the printmaking department, which I never had I just never got around to taking printmaking. You know, it wasn't my major, so if you're going to take it, you can take kind of the lower division stuff. But I don't know, I just didn't have time to my schedule to take it. But I always loved doing printing when I was in high school. My high school had a graphic arts class, so we were doing silk screening and letterpress and, you know, even two-color, you know, professional printers we had right in the class. Typesetting machines, ancient typesetting machines, you know, back before, you know, home computers or personal computing. But yeah, I just never got around to it. Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit of white here. This is the charcoal pencil. And I'm just highlighting here some of the tops of some different forms. I'm just going to do this really lightly. I'll kind of develop this a little bit more later, but I just wanted to kind of see it a little bit. Okay, so that's the white on there. Just kind of tweaking it a little bit. And let me check out this Conte pencil. Yeah, so this Conte pencil right here is it feels like I'd be using a black charcoal pencil or something like that. Like a dry pastel, not a oil pastel. So see, it's like in the base of the mountain here. I can kind of just extend it a little bit. I can add a little bit of it, you know, just a really light tone shadow. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be any difference in appearance or anything like this between using a black colored pencil or something like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe with the Conte one though, I can probably blend in, you know, the white pastel pencil a little bit more, you know, because it is a dry medium, just like the pastel pencil. Here, but like here, you can add in shadows. I added some highlights onto some of these rocks in here, so you can just kind of create a little bit of a shadow at the base of these rocks a little bit more, like this. Okay, that's not what this video is supposed to be, a live stream. I'm getting I really like kind of modeling my forms a little bit more, but see how these rocks kind of are a little bit more established on here, just with a little bit of shadow. I always kind of want to see that, what it looks like, and I'll add a little shadow, you know, coming from, you know, the people like that. Although I said this is front lit right here, you know, now I have a, you know, a backlit type of lighting in there. So maybe the mountains are front lit, but the people are backlit. Which we can do in stamping or any type of artwork. We can take artistic license. I kind of muddled that in there a little bit with those two. I don't like that color. So you can, this is all dry in here. I can just take a eraser and just, you know, lift that right off there, but I wanted to see that. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these scenes here. I want to just take a look at my stamp sketches so far. If you just joined in, my little Sea of Cortez, like the Baja Peninsula, I really like it with the ocean right there, with the saguaros and the those two, you know, small kind of organ pipe cacti. Joshua trees and ocotillo. Joshua trees in 3 different sizes. The ocotillos in 2. But I have the ocotillos kind of blooming with that red spot up there. So I need to give them some green leaves in here when I start coloring it, you know, on a future video. Like that. We might need a tiny organ pipe. Do I have a... this is the tiniest right here. If you want a tinier one, then just stamp this part right here. There wasn't anywhere on this plate that another organ pipe could fit, you know, because you have to give them room on the plate when they're doing scroll sawing out these images. They have to have room to kind of maneuver that blade around things so imagery can't be like super packed in, you know. So if they're trimming with like scissors or something like that on that cling foam, they have to kind of maneuver. I'm surprised that they can get into, you know, some of the tight, super tight areas as is. But they're pretty good at scroll sawing. You get like super adept at doing that. Does anyone remember Printworks? The Printworks collection? I know that Jamie there, he was like I think he was the son-in-law of the owner. So his wife, you know, his wife and he worked for Printworks. But anyways, they were talking about how, and they supplied Stampin' Up with imagery before Stampin' Up started making their own imagery. So they were selling a huge amount of stamps at one point in time. And he was the only one that did the rubber trimming for their wood-mounted stamps. And I said, you know, you're doing that by yourself? And I think he was saying that he can trim, I forgot what it was. It was some crazy amount. It was like 2,000, you know, stamps or something like that a night. But it was a huge amount. Okay, let's see right here. All right, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, do I want to get in this right here? But let's see how fast I can get kind of this holographic piece established. Let's put this on a little bit of a slope, okay? Like we're looking down into, I don't know, this is like on a mountain peak or something like that that's full of, you know, desert flora on here. And I'm just saying that because, you know, this is such a long piece like this. And just to create a little bit of extra kind of visual interest, you put kind of diagonals in here. And when you have diagonals in pieces, it creates a little bit of extra kind of visual motion, you know, because you feel like you're sliding up or going up and down, you know, that type of thing. All right, so wherever I put this, that's going to represent the slope of the, you know, whatever the, you know, the, no, whatever the side of a hill or mountain, okay? Okay, you can get more than one print. Oh, okay, so you can, yeah, you're doing, how many prints can you get though, Candy? And what are you inking up your gel plate with? Okay, are you using ink pads or are you using re-inker fluid or what? I don't even know how those work. I guess you can use different media on there too, as long as it's not, you know, like a solvent ink, right? Can you use a gel plate with pigment inks or something like that as well as like dyes? All right, there's like that. Okay. Now this is going to be white. What I'd be doing is after I get this established, I'd stamp out my imagery and I would color this in with like whatever browns or something like that, or whatever. If it's springtime greens, whatever color, you know, the slope is going to be. This is just, you know, establishing a, you know, a blocking out of that holographic, you know, surface and patterning on there. You know, otherwise it would look like if I snap the cacti up here, you know, with the base of it going in like right here, it would look like they're floating out and, you know, out in the air or something like that, I would think. And you can't color in with colored pencils onto this type of surface. It would be really hard to color this type of surface really with anything other than dry media, because it's going to dry just so fast on you. Okay. So back in the day of the I can't remember what it was. The chat rooms, AOL, I think. Yeah, I think it was AOL. There was that rubber stamp chat. I think it was that one. It was either that or it was the message board on Yahoo groups or something like that. But we were just kind of tossing around the ideas, having like a scenic stamping retreat. And one of the places that I kind of looked into, oh yeah, it was because Ken Pesho was out in Arizona, and he was going to we were all going to the Illinois, Chicago area scenic stamping retreats. So we were saying, oh, if we did some kind of like other retreat in like another area, and Ken Pesha was saying he can go pick people up at the airport and stuff like that too. But we were saying like having it in a real cool place like Sedona or something like that back then. But then when I thought about it, it's like, you know what? When we're at those scenic stamping retreats, we're in like that stamping room. It's like we don't even, we're stamping in there from like morning to night. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter really where you are. Because we barely went outside. Although there's one area in Illinois one time, it was in the hometown of the host of the retreat, and I don't know. We went and looked over this overlook, down at this river. I think it was. I forgot what river it was. It was really amazing, but yeah, that was like the only time we left. And sometimes, it's like we're going between the usually a hotel or something like that, and whatever. Some restaurant or something like that. Okay, so anyways, we have that right there. Do I need a little bit more up here? Okay, I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to go a little bit higher. It's because I think this is ideal right here, but I just want to fit more imagery into this space in here. Instead of just having it sloped in like this, I'm going to have it like a dual slope, I think. I used to do this thing called peak bagging. So when you're doing a lot of, it's like doing a lot of type of hiking where you're going up to some summit somewhere. So you're bagging the peak, you got that peak in your bag now from completing it. But, when you get this kind of ridge, if you're down here, this looks like the summit right here. But then you get up here and it's, oh my gosh, here's this other thing. So they call this area right here like a false summit. Now, this isn't like, it's supposed to be Everest or anything like that. Just like a little hill or something like that. But curse the, the false summits. It's just like right when you think you're there, guess what? You're not. It was bad when you had like 5 false summits or something like that, If you're really tired and getting tired of, climbing. All right, let's see. Yeah, the one those hikers in there, fun, Verna. It gave it a real kind of central, kind of focal point too, didn't it? It gave us something for our eye to kind of, latch onto and anchor onto. I guess that's one of the things with the desert kind of fauna too, you know what I mean? If I'm adding in like a little scorpion or something like that, usually if I'm doing a wooded scene or something like that, it's like a deer or something like that. But I add in those little creatures in here. Maybe that's a thing too. You can add in as many creatures as you want because they kind of, just like out in the desert, they kind of just blend in with the surroundings like that. Probably not the, the bighorn sheep or something like that, but like these smaller creatures, I find that I can use multiples of them, with no problem. I think they look pretty cool, but, they're not so kind of obvious or attention-getting. And again, that's kind of like it is out in, out in nature. Out in the deserts, I guess for survival and things like that. In the woods too, but it seems especially out in like the deserts, like everything's like the same color, so you don't really see something a lot of times unless it moves, even if it's like really close to you. Hello, Vintage Scrap Girl. How are things going? We're in for some more rain here in California this next week. My son is going to this tricking event, which is a type of sport that's going to be in Sacramento, and he leaves on Thursday, which is like right now in terms of the forecast, it's a day with the heaviest rain. For one day, I was looking at the forecast, and it had like an inch and a half of rain down here in the San Diego area on that day. I thought, uh-oh, that's their flying day, which, shouldn't be a problem, but it's like getting to the airport and back and all that kind of hassle. It's like, okay, we need to take off like a lot earlier than what we would normally take off at, just in anticipation of the traffic and, maybe potential accidents on the road and things like that. All right, so here's some rocks in here, and let's go with, now see, this isn't like, I don't have this, it's not like even terrain in here, so I had to kind of just arrange in here accordingly. Do I go like this and lower, lower, lower? Do I go higher up here and lower down here? I don't know. Okay, I used the Joshua. Have I used every different cacti so far? I think the Joshua trees and ocotillos, I don't think they're not cactus, right? I need to get that right. Otherwise, I'll be scolded by, someone that's, that knows their botany. Okay, let's see. Did I stamp that out? I don't think I stamped that out with a Brilliance. Did I stamp that out with my Marvy black? I don't know. It worked okay anyway. Okay, but that's a little bit lighter there, so I'm going to do a little masking off of that. And this is supposed to be in front of it. Let's put this one in front of it instead. I was going to put it behind those rocks. Okay, let's test this out here. Someone else is like super busy. Everyone's like really busy these days. All right, so I have that one right there. And they're like darker than that lighter impression, so I just stamped it right over the top of it. And I get a little of that rock showing through, but it's not too bad. All right, let's go. I don't have too much. This is a pretty long piece right here, but I don't have too much stamping space in here, so let's go for some of those different sizes in here to create a little bit of visual depth just within this really, tiny little band of space right here, okay? All right, now I haven't done, people that like desert imagery and things like that. They're saying, hey, do some ball cactus or something like that, which I haven't done because those ball cactus from a silhouette perspective, they're not that interesting looking. They're interesting, in real life and everything like that, but just drawing them, I don't want to draw like something that looks like that the silhouette of it could be like a basketball or something like that. But now when I'm looking at the slope like this, I often see a lot of ball cacti on like slopes a lot of times. So I'm thinking, maybe I do need a ball cactus on the line. All right, so here's some smaller saguaros here. It looks a little bit different when you stamp it over the white Brilliance ink and then just straight onto bare printable vinyl. You know, and that it's a little bit lighter down here, but it's not so much that it looks, you know, kind of whatever, distracting. So I did a lot of peak bagging because I like to get, you know, if I'm doing some kind of hike, I don't want to go on some like, several mile hike or something like that, where the destination, you know, it could be, you know, less interesting than something midway or maybe even at the start of the hike. You know, you want to get to something kind of cool and spectacular so you can see, you know, a better view from, up high. So that's why I always like doing, summits. And I like desert summits more because on the way up, you know, on some hikes, if you're hiking through like a pine forest, they have these things called switchbacks, where you just switch back and, you know, back and forth, back and forth. And it's like every switchback to every turn for like four, you know, whatever, 3 miles, 2, 3, 4 miles. It's like the exact same scenery. But in deserts, you know, you can see way into the distance because you're not in this big pine forest, that's what I always like. I like something with a really great view. So I was doing most of that hiking by myself too, but I eventually found this group of friends that would tolerate my you know, and maybe even enjoy kind of going off trail. All right, here's the single saguaro right here. I'm just using about 2/3 of it like that. Okay, now they're all kind of floating in space, so we'll need to anchor all this down in here. Oh, I should use the desert bighorn sheep in here. You got to bust out that gel plate, Debbie. I've seen some really cool things from it. I mean, there's probably a gazillion videos on people using that too. Um, I know which gel plate are people using? Are you using the speedball ones? Okay, a little bit of brush in here. Okay. Like this. When I was hiking on these desert slopes, a lot of times you see this little area that's kind of cleared out a little bit. Um, and then, in the gravel or something like that. And what those were areas where kind of, desert bighorn sheep, it's like a little area to kind of lay down on. And I didn't see that a lot, but I saw it in a couple different areas. All right, let me see here. I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more rock in here on this slope. Hello, Laura. Good to see you. Laura, we need some, when you take, Laura, you had that, was it the sunset photo you took the other time? We need some photos from you, Laura. get in some, take some, like twilight night skies or something like that through those, I don't know, whatever you're using, that 8-inch telescope or something like that, or, you know, some deep space stuff with some really cool colors, and or the moon shots too. And just take it all of the skies so we can use those as backgrounds for photo stamping. Laura and her husband do, astronomy. So, and they're in the desert, so you can get all kind of, both the night and, whatever golden hour shots out there for all of us stampers that are all kind of, you know, flooded out by, you know, city lights, you know. That's another one of the things I like going out to, like Joshua Tree and camping out in the deserts for. It was always for that night sky, you know. We just don't see enough stars, when you're anywhere close to the city. So I always love that. Okay, so extra little rocks in here, and then let's fill in again with some extra texturing like this. And I need some other cacti over the other side of the slope too. So I'll add that in. But I wanted to kind of, have this predominantly saguaro right here. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go for, let's do this little ocotillo. I think I was getting my ocotillo and saguaro mixed up a lot in a couple of these preliminary videos. I say I think I do because I don't watch my videos. I don't rewind and check it out. I edit them, but I don't watch the whole thing. If I did it, it would put me to sleep. All right. So there's little ocotillos in the background. I mean, it doesn't have to be ocotillo. It could just be like some little scrub or something like that, or it could represent that. One of the people that wanted some desert imagery, they had talked with me about it before. They live out in the desert, and but I didn't realize it until I think I started designing some. They do one of the things that they do is they teach. I think they teach, or I forget what it was. Something about desert botanicals, and some of them and their like I don't know what it was, like traditional medicine or something like that, from the use of some of the desert flora, I think it was. So they were really interested in like the ocotillos, and I don't know. They mentioned like a number of other desert cactus, but I don't know. I thought that was really cool. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, it's a little too small. I'm thinking about something to put in here. I pulled out some other types of little subject matter things. Is this coyote too big for in here? It might be okay right here. I don't have too much room in here. I didn't leave too much room here. And I maybe just have to be a vulture up here or something like that. It'd be good to have some kind of visual anchor point in here. I don't think this coyote is gonna work in here. It might just have to be something really tiny, like a tarantula. I don't like spiders either. So there's probably a couple of you just. I heard you thinking. This is more like a Charlotte Web spider. Okay, here we go. It's okay. It's a little bit bigger in scale too, but like way too big in scale. But I just want to add a little something down there. It doesn't stand out too much either, and especially because we're going to color it in too. Okay, so I have other things up here. I think what I'm going to do on this one, I was thinking about this with this holographic. I think I'm going to make this into kind of a nighttime type of scenario where I'm going to splatter paint some stars up here, or I could do like a full moon up here or something like that. And I think that would be kind of cool. I don't know where I'd put it. I'd put it like right over this way or something like that. And you can have some stars or something like that, but I would, tone this area in. And one of the things that's always fun, this is one of my favorite combinations of media here. It's the Brilliance inks, water-based inks on the printable vinyl sticker paper, and then the coloring with your colored pencils in here. So I just find it to be a super dynamic mix, because you wouldn't normally see something as soft looking in appearance on top of like a metallic foil like this. So it's like a really great kind of contrast of kind of textures, Metallics are really sharp and everything like that, and super reflective like that. And things like pastels, which isn't going to work down here, I don't think, or colored pencils tend to have a really soft look to them. So I'll add some color on here too, but I'll just kind of add in some of this initial shading, because I want to see what that's gonna. I want to get the gist of what this might look like here. I want to see it with this desert imagery here. So I'm just kind of extending out. If there's a kind of a rock like this that's in a little bit of shadow like that, all I'm doing with the this colored pencil is I'm just kind of extending a shadow like this out here, and I kind of make it a little bit darker at the base of the rock, and then I kind of transition it out to lighter. And see, like this, I just kind of make a decision of my general shadow direction. So if moon is right here, maybe I'll extend the shadows a little bit more to the right of the objects like this. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be like super obvious, but see, I'm just kind of going out here like this. Here's these tree, the cacti like that. And see, I'm just kind of taking this, I'm going a little bit more dominant on the right side of the object. So here's this rock right here, okay? So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going like out here, with that shadow like this. So it came out here. It's not the same on the other side of it. I mean, these aren't like tall rocks or something like that, like 5 feet that would be casting like a large shadow. They might represent something that's, a few inches tall. But again, I'm just kind of going a little bit more dominant in one direction. I mean, it doesn't matter which direction you go, just kind of keep it a little bit consistent, in terms of one of those little fine-tuning types of little tweaks that you can do. And then that just kind of represents kind of light direction a little bit more, but it doesn't have to be that, it could just be, you can just color at the base of rocks if you're kind of uncertain about it, and that will anchor down these rocks a little bit more, and that looks great just as well. But if you just kind of doing this lighting direction thing, it's really doing less work, because instead of adding the shadow all the way around like that, you're only kind of doing, a portion of it, like 2/3 of it. So you're doing like less work for kind of a little bit more of a, in this case, in directional, whatever lighting refinement or something like that. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the shading right here with the colored pencil. See, everything's like sits in there a little bit better every time you add a little bit of shading on to your after your imagery is stamped out. All right, so there we go with that one. That's a good foundation right there. I think what I would do is I would trim off a little bit more off the top of this like this. Not all the way right down to that, but have it like that, where that cacti is just kissing the top of that. So it's like maybe a 1/4 of an inch off here. And I'll make this a little bit more narrow. When you do something like that, when you have like some image like this that's just almost touching something, what you're doing is you're kind of integrating the format with the scene a little bit more. It's kind of interacting with it than just having all this kind of negative space up there. Okay. All right. So anyways, here's what do we have here? We have 4 different types of compositions right here. We have our, really dynamic paper in holographic metallic, like that. We have our kind of more mellow one right here. I find this antique one to be super mellow, which is supposed to look like, right? It's supposed to be all weathered and kind of, there's less contrast in this one than, the others, because it's all dark to begin with, I'm not sure if I like that, even that white up there. I guess it's subtle enough. And plus, when you spray seal this, though, that'll kind of disappear. But if I don't put that down there, you don't really need to spray seal it because there's nothing on there that really needs to be locked down. Here's the photo print right here of another composition, right? With the, whatever, the islands in the distance. And then we have our just plain white cardstock like this. And of course, this one, is the most, the one that you can manipulate the most into whatever you want. It could be any kind of color scheme that you want. It could be morning, noon, or sunset or nighttime, at this point in time. But I'll make it just kind of real light and airy, and, I'll put this down here in a springtime type of scenario. But I don't know. Yeah, everything so far so good with all the imagery. Everything is working out. I would say better than I had hoped. I anticipated, using what these would look like just stamped out, in a scene. But I'm finding that the freedom that we have with, I don't know, kind of the amount of usage. I've seen some scenes too, which are really cool, with people using set, the initial set number 31, and all the imagery was really spread out a lot more. So it was a real sparse type of landscape, and I thought that looked awesome. I think they put a mountain in the background too, or something like that. And I thought it was in a. Am I just imagining this, Linda, or was it on a, did someone do, maybe it was you, I don't know. Someone did it. I thought it was on a full-size piece of paper. It was like 8.5 by 11, but there was a lot of space in between things. And I don't think they put a lot of connective types of things. So it was like on a flat ground. And I thought, oh, that looks really cool. And it looked real kind of, it looked stark, and dramatic, I guess, maybe more dramatic like that. When you do all this filler and connectivity like that, it kind of unifies everything a little bit more. But when you have it, with all that stuff down here, it looked pretty cool as well. It was just more dramatic. I guess the shapes of the forms as kind of like figures in a setting, stood out more, I guess that's, maybe it looked like figures, or something like that. The piece you did earlier, the one with the hikers. Oh, this one right here? We're coming to your place, Laura. We're having that desert stamping retreat at Laura's house in 2 weeks. And then, and then they bust out that, and then at nighttime, one of the programs we're having is an intro to astronomy on those, everyone wants their own telescope. Unfortunately, you sold all those, whatever it was, 24 that you had said you had, or something like that, right? I've never seen a tarantula and think that it is tiny. I've only seen a tarantula out in the wild, I think. I can't remember how many times. Some of them are pretty big, those tarantulas. Out in the jungles, though, I think. I wouldn't get speedball. Oh, you wouldn't get the speedball plate. Okay. Oh, is there any reason why? Oh, not the best reviews. Okay. Huh. I wasn't aware that there was a lot of other types of gel plates. Bugs has never used a gel plate. Yeah, I know. We had a tarantula by our garage a couple of years ago. It was about the size of my fist. Oh, that's kind of cool. I'd rather have a tarantula, of course, than like a black widows, or something like that. We have brown widows around our house. Ah, those tarantulas are, they're totally mellow bugs. Look at your name is Bugs, Laura. You know, don't you like tarantulas? I had a scorpion in my bed. No, that's not good. What? It bit me and my tongue went numb. What the heck? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's one of those things I would, definitely don't want scorpions. Scorpions, yeah, that does worry me. It's like sometimes I've put my shoes, I think, outside of my tent when camping at times, which is a mistake because I don't want to. I always kind of check my shoes before I put those on in the morning, like hiking boots or whatever, just to make sure that a scorpion didn't crawl in there. Which I have never even seen a scorpion out in but they're kind of nocturnal. I know people that went out with a class or something like that one time, and I think they took black lights out there. And when you show the black light, they're like trying to find scorpions and flipping over stones, but they have that glow in the dark. I don't know, like the bioluminescence to them when a black light is on them, which I find fascinating. I got stung by a scorpion back in the 90s. Ow. In Buckeye, Arizona. Wow. Yeah, so we got two people just in this chat right here or watching this live that have been, that had, you know, scorpion stings before, huh? That's interesting. That's not good, of course, but yeah. So better the scorpion than something like a black widow, though, or of course a rattlesnake or something like that. Each of these has its different feel. Yeah. So yeah, a real different feel. So I want to. Okay, so I'm going to finish these off like later on, like I said. But I like what I see so far in these images. These are all kind of, I don't know. I tried to go a little bit dense on these, but I don't feel so I used more imagery, I think, in these ones than I normally do. I'll snap the Lakeside Cove in the background and something in the foreground with a couple of reeds or something like that, right? In other scenes. But I find that, like I said, I'm doing more in this area down here than or in the terrain, even going into the distance than I'm used to using. Which you can do, you know what I mean? I just kind of forced it. It wasn't that I thought I needed it or something like that, but I just really wanted to push it. I don't feel like I'm pushing it either. Maybe I need to go like double the imagery in some of these, but like I said, in my other types of terrains, I tend to think that it would be cluttered doing it like that. But like I said, I don't feel that any of these look cluttered really at all. And I really like having that option of kind of adding things in there as much as I want. Or, you can leave it sparse too, and I think it looks fine. On all of these, though, I did like that kind of element of some sort of connectivity. When I was saying that someone stamped out, these images in the and posted in the Facebook group, I think things were a little bit more spread apart, but I think they did use either, I'm not sure if, I can't remember exactly, but I think they either used the sand pattern on the ground, or they might have used cracked earth. Oh, that was another thing that I forgot to break out. I want to see cracked earth. That there's an image called cracked earth, which I really don't see out in the deserts too much, but people would associate it with some sort of desert terrain. But it's more of like a wetlands type of thing, where it's a seasonal pool and it dries up, and then you get those cracked looking thing. But sometimes out in the sand dunes, where I used to go that did have that kind of texturing out there. So I want to use some of that imagery. I wouldn't go cracked earth everywhere, I don't think, but I would kind of have it like, say, down in this lower area right here where there's nothing. Then I'd put that cracked earth, or you can use a little bit of the sand pattern in this open area as opposed to, to just using like my tiny rocks that I did in here. Or something like this in your foreground like this. I can just use a little bit of this right in here. Let me try that right here. I'm just going to use the top of this. Right in here. This. I mean, it's really subtle. I can barely see it, but see that little texturing in there. So I think I can do that. You can just, I'm going to use that like as a foundation, and I can put, you can put additional rocks over the top of that or whatever you want. And I think that would work good too. So, desert textures, it's the perfect kind of opportunity to do those. So on this one right here at the springs, I can't wait to use some of the, like the green types of paint pens, with a little bit of the green leaves that you get on these ocotillos like this. So I haven't figured out, or maybe where I'd add in some, we're playing around with glitters now over the past, week or week and a half or 2 weeks or something like that. So I don't know, you can have it, if this is a nighttime sky, you can do something like that. But, I probably wouldn't, unless you have like some kind of dark glittery thing or something like that, or a wink of stella or something like that, that would be really subtle. I probably wouldn't use something like that. And, I don't know, maybe you can add in something like that. I'll figure it out. Because I'm starting to really like that blingy, kind of reflective, shimmering look, with those little flashes of light that, that glitter can provide, like that in there. So I don't know, we'll try it out. Maybe, on the tops of these little bushes, if you have them blooming with a lot of yellow spring blooms on there, maybe you just put like a couple little touches, in each one of them, and then you use, some more of that, that yellowy glitter or something like that on those, because I'm finding that glitter, it's less kind of it's not as loud as I thought it would be, except in just the right light. So it's like sometimes I'm like tilting it around and I can't even get the right angle to get that, to see that glitter flash. But maybe it's good that way because it's, a lot more subtle and not, not so in your face, in the way that I'm using it, kind of sparsely. So yeah, maybe in these little bushes down here, it would be kind of cool. Anyway, let's see here. Scorpions glow under black light. Was it just that one, Laura, or was there some other types of desert fauna that were glowing too? I can't remember if it was something else. I thought there was one other thing, or I can't remember. Was it like it was like a bug, right? Wasn't it like a potato bug or something like that glowed? But you kind of wonder why it has that type of property to them sometime. All right, folks. Stamp. Thanks for checking out the stamp sketching, scenes to be finished in future vids. I can't type here. There we go. Thanks, not thans, for checking out. All right, everyone. Thanks again. Can't wait to see what you guys do with the desert imagery. Laura's going to be stamping, view from her backyard, or out the backyard, which would be cool too. So, yeah, do some nighttime types of things. Do some photo stamping, Laura. You probably have tons of things like that. Like when you're shooting all those those moons or something like that, have a gigantic, moon like this right in here, shot with a, that telescope of yours, photo print of it, and just stamp this just right over the top of it in the foreground or something like that. I think that would be really cool. Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks again.